This is how life begins. Deep inside the uterus, an embryo starts on its incredible journey to birth. It's hard to say what animal this is, but it's certainly not human. This film shows in intimate detail how mammals develop. From one shared evolutionary route into dramatically different adult animals. Only now can we follow this amazing process within 3 different animals. The dolphin, a highly social mammal and a skillful predator whose ancestors once lived on land. The domestic dog, one of evolution's greatest successes, its combined senses as acute as any in the animal kingdom. And the elephant, our largest and among the most sophisticated of all land mammals, with easily the longest gestation period. Now, using the latest scientific research, state-of-the-art visual effects, computer graphics, and real-time ultrasound pictures, we can provide a unique view of animal fetal development. When, how, and why it occurs. For the first time, pictures like these are letting us explore and unlock the mysteries of the once secret world of the animal womb. A single fertilized cell divides and sets off on the most dangerous journey this animal will ever undertake. Right now, it's no more than a formless shape, 1/5 the size of a single grain of sand. From a single cell, it constructs bones from pulp, forms nerve cells before it can think, and digests food before its gut is formed. But before this amazing process can unfold, all mammal pregnancies must start the same way, by mating. For elephants, copulation is just the start of an epic journey that will take nearly 2 years. Asian female elephants like this one come into season or estrus about every 4 months, although they're only fertile for 2 to 3 days each cycle. Male and female elephants rarely get together. Females roam with other females and their calves. So when a female is fertile, she simply calls for a mate. A call that can be heard for 5 kilometers. The strongest male responds, fighting off his competitors. He mates with his partner up to 5 times a day over a period of 3 days. But his penis never penetrates the vagina. Instead, on ejaculation, he sprays a jet of sperm containing up to 1/4 liter of semen at the vagina's opening. The bull elephant's job is done. He heads off in search of another female. Now his sperm travels towards the female's egg. But it's a roller coaster of a trip. The sperm face many dangers ahead. They must swim nearly 2 meters, more than 20 times as far as human sperm. Immediately, they face a challenge. The entrance to the vagina is just 2.5 centimeters across. A third perish here, unable to navigate through the opening. Those that do make it now face severe danger from the female's immune system. White blood cells patrol for foreign invaders. To them, the sperm are hostile. Many thousands are engulfed and destroyed. But those that survive this onslaught now receive a helping hand. As they enter the uterus, muscles in the wall contract, pushing them towards their goal. In addition, tiny hairs on the uterus wall waft them onwards. But there are more obstacles ahead. The sperm must now squeeze through a narrow, winding passage, the oviduct, connecting the uterus and the ovary. Many don't make it. Biologists believe that as the successful sperm enter the oviduct, the egg emits a chemical to attract them, a final encouraging call. Of the 5 billion that started the journey, just 10,000 are left. After 12 hours, the surviving sperm reach their goal. But even here, they face a final hurdle. A protective layer shrouds the egg. Just one sperm gets through. The one with the essential mix of proteins, enabling it to burn through the wall. As the sperm begins to penetrate, the egg engulfs it. This triggers changes in the surrounding membrane. All other sperm are blocked out. As they fuse, the 28 chromosomes stored in both egg and sperm join together. The fertilized egg weighs under 1,000th of a gram. Yet the blueprint for building a new 5-ton elephant is now in place. It's 6 days since conception, and the fertilized elephant egg moves through the oviduct towards the uterus. The egg signals to the mother to produce progesterone, a chemical that prevents further estrous cycles and prepares the uterus for implantation. 24 hours later, the dividing cells have formed a tiny ball called a blastocyst. Once inside the uterus, it searches for a suitable spot to attach. Our elephant mother-to-be has given birth before. Her previous pregnancies have scarred the uterine wall. This section is incapable of supporting another pregnancy, so the blastocyst travels on. At last, it finds a more receptive spot and attaches. It now pushes out finger-like projections that bind it ever closer to its mother, locking it into her blood supply. This is the beginnings of the placenta. As with humans, the placenta is the only physical link between the mother and her baby. It is richly supplied with blood vessels and plays a vital role carrying nutrients to the developing embryo. It also filters waste products out of the embryo's blood and prevents harmful substances from entering. This will now be the calf's home for the next 22 months. Yet within the time that our elephant will produce just one calf, another of nature's most sophisticated mammals, the domestic dog, could become pregnant and bear young at least 3 times. And for the first time on television, the latest scanning technology will allow us to watch the puppies develop inside their mother's womb. Within our Asian elephant, the fertilized egg is just starting out on a remarkable journey through a pregnancy that will last an astonishing 22 months. But an equally amazing drama regularly plays out a lot more quickly within many of our own homes. The dog can produce not just one baby at a time, like the elephant, but multiple litters of puppies. Dogs first evolved around 12,000 years ago. They're one of only about a dozen animals that's ever shared a close relationship with humans. Today, they vary dramatically in size, shape, color, and behavior. At one end of the scale, the Chihuahua weighs in at under a kilogram, compared to the Neapolitan Mastiff, which weighs a massive 70 kilograms. No other species shows such a range of individual characteristics. But regardless of their size, the gestation period for dogs is the same, about 63 days. We'll follow a golden retriever from conception right through to birth. And for the first time, we'll be able to watch the fetuses as they develop within the mother's uterus. The female retriever usually releases 10 to 12 eggs. She's now ready to mate. The dog's penis contains a bone that may provide additional stabilization during copulation. Probably because the male needs rigidity to enter the female nearly vertically from below. He mounts her. Within seconds, he ejaculates. The two animals now enter the tie stage. The male's penis locks inside the vagina. During this time, more fluid from the prostate gland is released to help transport the sperm. The tie can last from 5 minutes to an hour. They normally turn to stand back to back for this process. This seemingly bizarre behavior has its roots in the dog's evolutionary past. Its wild ancestors would adopt this position to protect themselves from attack. Our golden retriever's eggs are now fertilized and traveling towards the uterus. Over the course of just 63 days, each of these bundles of cells will become a puppy in a litter of 9. It's just over 2 weeks since our golden retriever conceived, and she's already a quarter of the way through her pregnancy. Inside her uterus, an amazing process is underway. The embryonic ball of cells turn in on themselves in a process called gastrulation. As the cells continue to divide and multiply, they need instructions, a trigger to tell them what type of cells they should become, and whereabouts in the embryo they should go. Gastrulation is one of the greatest wonders of nature. First, the embryo folds in on itself to form a cylindrical tube. As it does so, it forms a patch of tissue. This is known as the primitive streak. On one edge of this primitive streak, another much smaller patch of tissue forms. Biologists call it the organizer. Every cell in the developing embryo then flows over the organizer. As they do, they receive instructions that assign them their fate. Some are told to become head cells, some tail cells. Others are instructed to form nerve cells, and some become skin. Now the 9 embryos attach to the uterine wall. As they do, the uterus contracts to push them along, so they're all evenly spaced. It's 3 weeks since conception. The embryos are about the size of a pea. Our dog is now showing outward signs of her pregnancy. But even dogs who are not pregnant can sometimes exhibit such signs. This odd behavior, sometimes referred to as pseudo or phantom pregnancy, goes back to the dog's distant past. For these embryos, along with every dog on the planet, all descend from the grey wolf. In the wild, only the dominant pair in a pack ever breeds, ensuring that the strongest bloodline thrives. But the dominant bitch is not only the mother for the pack, she's the primary hunter too. If she had to stop hunting while rearing her own puppies, the pack would lose her predation skills. To avoid this, every female comes into season together. The unmated bitches go through a false pregnancy. When the dominant female's pups are born, the other females can suckle and raise them, allowing the leader to go straight back to hunting. The legacy of this behavior can still be seen in the domestic dog. During a phantom pregnancy, she may start nursing toys, carrying them to her bed area. In some cases, she will make a nest, convinced she's about to give birth. The dog embryo has reached the halfway point. The heart starts to beat. Now the embryos are about the size of a grape. So far, they've developed at roughly the same pace as humans. Now, however, it is time for the dog to speed up. Unlike human embryos, which stay in the womb for another 8 months, these puppies must be ready for birth in a mere 30 days. The structure of the basic eyeball is now being formed. Recent research has revealed that a dog's vision is similar to that of a colorblind human. Dog embryos develop only 2 sets of color receptors in the retina compared to our 3. They can't differentiate between red, yellow, and green. This is how the embryonic pup's developing eyes will eventually work. The lack of full color vision is probably a result of evolutionary pressures over tens of millions of years. When mammals first evolved, towards the end of the dinosaur age, they found it easier to compete with other species as nocturnal creatures. So the early mammals needed good night vision. That came at the expense of full color vision. Day 33. The legs are beginning to form. At this stage, the paws are paddle-shaped and webbed with ridges. A set of pimple-like projections are growing around the mouth. Here, whiskers will sprout. And for the first time on television, we can see the growing puppies using a form of ultrasound called 4D. Dr. Thomas Hildebrandt is a specialist in veterinary ultrasonography. He's one of the few people in the world who can capture 4D images of animals in the womb. Unlike traditional ultrasound, 4D imagery not only creates a 3-dimensional image, it also captures the image in real time, creating what's called a 4-dimensional picture. These images reveal that at this stage, the pups are now moving. Their major muscles are well advanced. These survivor muscles, such as those in the legs and jaw, are developing most rapidly. They are vital for the animal's survival once it leaves the uterus, and this early movement is a form of exercise. The ears are clearly visible. The inner ear has formed, The middle and external ear are still growing. A marvel of evolutionary design, the dog ear is extremely sophisticated. When pricked, its flap reflects sound back into the ear canal, like we do when we cup our ear with our hand. Right now, the canal is plugged, but when this retriever is an adult, it'll be able to hear sounds 4 octaves higher than the highest note on a piano, and 4 times further away than anything we can hear. The eyes are now closed and the lids have fused. Although the placenta filters out most waste matter, the kidneys of the retriever fetus are now functioning. These produce a primitive form of fluid which contaminates the fetal environment. So when the lower and upper lids start to touch, the cells grow together, sealing the aperture. The fetus now looks at least a little like a dog, but our 9 puppies still have a way to go. Before birth, they must grow claws, develop an astonishingly advanced sense of smell, and grow hair, all in a period of just under 3 weeks. But 40 days in, these pups take an important step in their development. These 4D images show the puppy opening its mouth and displaying its tongue as if panting. What we're witnessing for the very first time is an in-womb rehearsal of behavior that will be essential later in life. A dog has very few sweat glands. So as soon as it overheats, it opens its mouth, lets its tongue flop out and begins to pant. While doing so, it moistens the tongue, speeding up the evaporation process. The pups are in their 7th week of development. You can now clearly make out the most advanced sense in the dog's armory, its nose. Inside this puppy's developing nose rests a large bundle of nerve cells called the olfactory bulb. Its job is to process the smell signals picked up by the scent receptor cells within the nose. And there are a vast number of those. Nearly 200 million are already developing. This puppy will detect some organic chemicals at concentrations 100 times weaker than we can. That means that dogs can identify human scent on a plate of glass that has been touched and then left outdoors for 2 weeks. That acute sense of smell is vital to the dog from the moment it's born, for when it first emerges from its mother's uterus, it will be blind. To survive, it will need its nose to locate its mother's teats. But this is just the beginning. Throughout its life, the dog's extraordinarily acute sense of smell will help it locate food, recognize mates and offspring, and avoid enemies. Day 53. The fetuses are moving so much that they can be seen on the outside as a rippling movement. Inside, they are now touching. The pups now have a full coat of hair, light cream in color. The nail and paw pads have developed, with the pads growing a thick, protective, insulating skin layer. The whiskers can now be clearly seen. They will vibrate at the slightest air currents, alerting their owner to the presence, size, and shape of nearby objects. They also help to protect the eyes. One touch on the whiskers causes the eyelids to blink. They're similar to ordinary hair, but more than twice as thick, with roots set 3 times deeper. And now the entire body, including the paws, is covered with touch-sensitive nerve endings. There are just 2 days left. Now the uterus is getting crowded and the fetuses increasingly stressed. As they push against the uterus wall, their supply of oxygen from the placenta becomes restricted. In turn, the lower oxygen level starts to trigger the mother's first contractions. Giving birth, or whelping, can be over within an hour, or may take as long as 36 hours. The dog's temperature drops from 38 degrees to 37 degrees Celsius, the first sign that birth is imminent. The uterine muscles contract in an irregular pattern, relaxing and dilating the uterus, vagina, and vulva. This softens, enlarges, and lubricates the birth canal to ease the coming delivery. The mother tries to shred her bedding. This may be a hangover from a time when canines would dig a den-like structure. The contractions become more regular. The dog starts to pant and lies down to help her pushing. The fetuses are now turning into a head-first position. Continuing contractions force the pups towards the vagina and dislodge the placenta from the uterine wall. Birth is now imminent. 9 weeks of development in the womb have fully prepared the puppies for this moment, when they must abandon the safety of their mother's womb and face the world for the very first time.